So it was reported yesterday that the Miami Heat are interested in Jrue Holiday. Well, at least according to Rob Murrow, or if you prefer, according to common sense, because Jrue Holiday is a good basketball player, and typically NBA teams are interested in good basketball players. So I don't really think that's breaking news. Plus, if you remember, the Heat showed a lot of interest in Jrue Holiday in the past, where Brian Windhorst reported that after Dame was sent to Milwaukee and the Bucks flipped Jrue to Portland, that the Heat actually put in a significant bid to get Jrue Holiday from Portland. But of course, because Joe Cronin is a bum-ass hoe for life, he flipped Jrue to Boston just to spite Miami. But it's also telling me that 55.6% of y'all are bum-ass hoes too. Nah, I'm just kidding, because a view is a view, and I do appreciate you. That's a bar. But if you want to subscribe, I do appreciate you. Now let's get back into the video. The reason I want to talk about this Rob Murrow report, who also he did mention Sacramento and Dallas as other potential landing spots, by the way. But the reason I want to mention that report is because Heat vs. Haters quote tweeted it yesterday and asked Heat fans, would you be interested in Jrue Holiday? And that led to a pretty big discussion online yesterday. So in today's video, I kind of want to share my thoughts on that and also tell you why I believe Boston will be aggressively shopping Jrue Holiday. And that's mostly because he's getting paid a hell of a lot of money. If you want to look at his contract situation here, next year, at the age of 35, he'll be getting paid over $32 million, followed by $34.8 million the year after that. And then at the age of 37, he has a player option worth $37.2 million that he'll very likely accept, because what kind of 37-year-old is going to turn down that kind of money? Now, I do want to point out, though, that although Jrue is making a ton of money, it's not necessarily an overpay or bad value. If you want to compare his contract next season to the surrounding guys around him, you can see here that he's getting paid less than guys like Bam, Maxey, Fox, Desmond Bane, Jalen Brunson. I think all of those players in today's game are maybe a tier better than Jrue Holiday, and they're getting paid about a tier more. And if you want to look at the first two guys directly above Jrue in terms of how much they're getting paid next season, it's Immanuel Quickley and Chris Middleton. And I actually think Jrue Holiday is a better player than both those guys right now. So that shows that the Jrue contract does have some value. Now, the difference is, though, if you want to look at Immanuel Quickley, yes, he is getting paid a lot of money for a lot of years like Jrue, but Immanuel Quickley is only 25. So by the time his contract ends, he'll be like 29. He'll still be very young. And then a guy like Chris Middleton, who is older, he's already 33 years old, he is getting paid a lot of money, but his contract ends next year. He's an expiring deal, where you compare those two guys to Jrue Holiday. He's getting paid a lot of money for a lot of years like Quickley, but he's also older like Chris Middleton. So that doesn't really work out well. And of course, as we know, that Jrue Holiday has that player option at 37, which he's going to accept. I find it hard to believe he won't. You know, I know the salary cap is going to increase a little bit by then, but I don't think Jrue is going to find more money in the market when he's 37 years old. I just don't see it happening. So it's very clear that while the contract may be okay next season, in a couple of years, it's probably going to come back to bite the team in the ass of whoever ends up trading for him. So we understand that the Jrue contract is likely not going to age well, especially when you consider the fact that he's only played over 69 nice games 4 times in his 16-year NBA career, with the last time being 8 years ago. Now, I don't want to make it seem like Jrue Holiday is a super injury-prone player. Of course, there's guys who are a lot worse than him. But when you're getting paid that much money, you need to play, especially when you consider that this is the same issue that the Heat had with Jimmy Butler. They didn't want to pay Jimmy because of his availability concerns, although Jimmy did miss quite a bit more games, and also he was asking for $60 million compared to the mid-30s that Jrue is going to get. So that is a big difference, but you got to play. Now, Jrue is still a pretty impactful player. You could see his numbers dropped off quite a bit since joining the Celtics 2 years ago, but that's because he was on such a stacked roster. He really didn't have the ball as much, but he still provides a couple of things that the Miami Heat desperately need from that point guard position. He's always been a very good facilitator with a great assist-to-turnover ratio. Even last year, he was at about 4-to-1, which is phenomenal. And most importantly, he's a proven shooter, especially if you want to look at the last 5 seasons since joining Milwaukee and then Boston. He's at 39% from three, which is really good. So he's a great player, but because his contract is so high, Boston will definitely be trying to move off of him, especially when you consider that their current salary cap situation is terrible. They are $19 million over the second apron next season, which is insane, especially when you consider that they're not going to be that good a team next year. Of course, Jason Tatum had his unfortunate Achilles injury. He's very likely going to miss all of next season, and I think we understand that that team can still be good, but they have a ceiling. I mean, we just saw them lose by 40 points in an elimination game to the New York Knicks. So for that reason, I do think the Boston Celtics are going to be sellers of Jrue Holiday, maybe even Jaylen Brown, potentially Derek White, and even Kristaps Porzingis, who honestly, he's an expiring deal next year, so his contract might not be as hard to move as you think. It's not going to be super easy, just not as bad as before. But the reason that Boston might need to sell all of those guys is because of the luxury tax. This past season, Boston paid $54 million in luxury tax, which might sound like a lot to you, but it doesn't sound like a lot to me because I already saw how much they would be paying next season if they keep the roster as is. And next season, the Celtics will be paying $238 million in tax if they keep the roster the way it is right now. And that's just something that you cannot do for a team that's not going to be a contender. It's one thing if you're deep into the second apron and they won a championship. We literally saw it. It's one thing. But next year, when you know your star player's out and you're not going to be competitive, you just can't pay that kind of tax bill. It would be ridiculous. Plus, there's all other kinds of limitations with like a repeater tax or also being over the second apron multiple seasons really hinders you, and it's just not something that Boston can afford to do, like literally. And also too, I want to note that next year Boston is eligible for a disabled player exception for Jason Tatum, which is equivalent to a mid-level exception, which is only $14 million, and all that does is give them extra money to spend, but it still counts against the cap. So Boston is not going to use that disabled player exception because the last thing they want to do is add another $14+ million to their tax bill. So essentially, Boston gets no tax relief for Tatum's injury next year. And we know that's part of the reason that the Celtics got new ownership is because the old one didn't want to deal with this mess. So if you're watching this video, then you are an elite ball knower, so why not take advantage of it with MyBookie? Listen, y'all, throughout the NBA playoffs, I'll be using their live betting feature to smash the Davion Mitchell overs and smash the Rudy Gobert unders, and then using their early cash out option to stack up the profits. If you want to do the same, make sure to sign up for MyBookie using promo code MM50, which will instantly boost your first deposit. And then once the games wrap up, you can check out their casino, which has blackjack and slots and roulette, you name it. Bet on anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie. Now let's get back into the video. As a Heat fan, you may be asking yourself, why would the Miami Heat want to take on that massive contract of Jrue Holiday? Especially when you consider that we already signed Bam Adebayo to his max extension, and then this summer, Tyler Hero, Nikola Jovic, those guys are due for extensions as well. Maybe you're saying the same thing that I replied to the initial Heat vs. Haters post, which is, we have Jrue Holiday at home. And of course, I was referencing Davion Mitchell, who is a restricted free agent this offseason, but I'm hoping that Miami can re-sign him in the $8 to $12 million a year range, which is a fraction of what Jrue Holiday is making. And the reason that the Heat might want to do that is simply because Jrue is a better player. You know, I understand that Davion Mitchell shot 45% from three last year in 30 games, but that's obviously not sustainable. And it's a small sample size too. So how big a drop off will there be? I have no idea. So maybe the Heat value Jrue Holiday, although he's 8 years older than Davion Mitchell, just because he's more reliable. He's a two-time champion. He's proven. He also has a great relationship with Erik Spoelstra from the Olympics. So would I want Jrue Holiday? No, not for all that money. Unless he can come over here with another person that he has a great relationship from the Olympics with, and that's Kevin Durant. And if you direct your attention to the right side of the screen, you'll see none other than Bam Adebayo, who of course was also on that Olympic team with Jrue and KD. So there's a relationship there with those guys and Erik Spoelstra. And if next year the Heat could field the starting lineup of Jrue Holiday, Tyler Hero, Kevin Durant, Bam Adebayo, and Khalil Ware, that to me is easily a team that could contend for the NBA championship and certainly get to the NBA finals. Especially when you consider that Jason Tatum is out next year, Giannis is likely getting traded to the West, or maybe not, because this morning I woke up to a Q&A that Giannis did last night, and someone asked him one of his favorite cities to live in, and he said Florida cities. So maybe Giannis is coming to Miami, and the rest of this video is irrelevant. But if not, I do think getting Jrue Holiday and KD this offseason would be an absolute W. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, is that even possible to get both of those guys? And well, the answer is yes, because after like an hour in the trade machine, I finally found something that works for all parties involved. And it's this 4-team trade between the Miami Heat, Boston Celtics, Phoenix Suns, and Detroit Pistons. But it's a bit of a complex trade. There's a lot of moving parts, and I've already been talking for a while in this video. So I think I'm going to make this a 2-part video. And in tomorrow's video, I'm going to break down this trade, how the Miami Heat land Jrue Holiday and Kevin Durant. So make sure y'all subscribe so you don't miss it. Make sure to comment down your thoughts below on if you would even want Jrue Holiday, because I'm very curious to hear what y'all think. Make sure to subscribe because I'm on the grind to hit 8,000 subs. And I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace out, everyone.
Look, pull up in your city, tryna get that dead face. Do it on my own, I don't need no dead weight. Had to kill him off, yeah, I need a head space. You know this homegrown bitch don't offend me.